kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. See if maybe that fixed my echo. Did not. I don't know what's going on here, folks. I'm falling apart. Anyhow, there we go. It's it's been God, I can't believe how weird of a time we're living in. It's such a strange point in history, and it just kind of boggles my mind a lot of times. And the Super Bowl is this weekend, and I've been fairly vocal about how I've got back into watching football this year, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was it was a much needed distraction. There's a lot of people that for whatever reason they're kind of anti-sports, and I understand that. I kind of was I wasn't ever anti-sports. I just kind of quit watching them for a while. But then there's guys that just like, man, I don't even know what the Super Bowl is. And like, yeah, bullshit. You know what the Super Bowl is, and I bet you've watched it a time or two in your life. But whatever. It's like it for whatever reason, the Super Bowl has become kind of an unofficial national holiday. It's it's one of those things that's like a truly American, I guess holiday, if you will, because we got like the unofficial holidays like St. Patty's Day and Cinco de Mayo and whatever, and that's celebrating somebody else's culture. But like football's a truly American sport, and for whatever reason, the NFL took over the kind of the sports world here in the U.S. and then along with everything else, it got political and got really fucking stupid, just almost unbearable to watch because it was just nothing but politics shoved down your throat, and for I think for pretty obvious reasons, people kind of tuned out, and this year the NFL seemed to make a concerted effort to just play football, and that was it, and it was awesome. I really enjoyed watching it. Had one of the better Super Bowls I've ever seen played. It was fun to watch, and like I said, it was a good distraction. There's 100 different distractions that people in power will try to use to just keep you from watching the shit that's important. And like the fact that we're just inching closer and closer to war with Russia, and so that it's always distractions, and sports is a big one. Don't get me wrong. I'm not naive to the fact that the whole entertainment complex type thing is a distraction from, is used as to distract people away from real world policies and politics and conflicts across the world like that, and corruption. Media is and sports, media, entertainment's it's the easiest way to go ahead and get people completely distracted from from what's actually going on in the world. And but I don't think that necessarily distraction's a bad thing, because you get to dwelling on this shit all the time, and you'll drive yourself crazy, and you'll end up like one of those shrieking psychos on Twitter that just is always ranting and raging about whatever the current political issue of the day is. And I always go back to this example I used with my buddy Rob. Not that I'm just some wise individual. I know Rob, and I got to he was posting shit and just like rage posting. And I love a good debate. Everybody knows I do. I like to argue just for the sake of arguing. And my one of my English teachers in high school always called me stoic, and I didn't know exactly what he meant by it. And then you get into philosophy. Could go on for hours, but I always kind of enjoy breaking down the other side's argument, mostly because I like to do that so I can have a better argument to destroy theirs with. Because it kind of feels good to really get into an argument and then just own whoever you're arguing, and it's kind of fun. And so I always try to look at the argument from the other side of view, and like where they got right, what do they got wrong, what would be a good arguing point. And so I like to, going back to that, I like to argue on Facebook a little bit. I like to just to see what if people are actually like how passionate they are, and well versed on it. And Rob was posting something about making fun of Biden because he had a stutter, and how that was what would I call it, ableist or whatever the fuck, because you're not supposed to make fun of people with disabilities. And I just Rob, you were not even mad at this. You're just shit posting. And I feel like if you just get too far into politics, that's how you become on either side. And then it gets to a point where you don't even see what the point is trying to be made. It just, you look at who is making the point, and and just either completely agree or completely dismiss. And it seems like that's where we've been for about really since Trump took office. For whatever reason, that was the galvanizing moment. Of course, it had been building up to something for years, but it was finally good to see, the last couple of months. The kind of the tone has shifted. There's still some really really deep polarization in the country, but there seems to be a concerted effort by a lot of people to just try to get along a little bit. And you can have the you can point to all the different ways people are. You can understand why they don't want to get along, but it just man, if we don't, shit's gonna get real bad because people are pissed. But I was sitting out here in the studio after the Super Bowl. Everybody kind of went to bed, and I was gonna try to record something last night, and it just didn't. I couldn't quite put my thoughts together, and I don't know if it's gonna make any sense today, anyways. But I didn't want to rant and preach or whatever. But there was a couple of interactions that I that I had, and while I was just kind of browsing, going down rabbit hole to rabbit hole, just see if anything seemed interesting to talk about. Nothing really did. There's a lot of important shit going on, but I don't know. I just couldn't really focus my train of thought, and I was listening to music, and I was also at the same time my brain kind of flutters back and forth. But I'm trying to think of songs to learn on the guitar and try to sing when I would do another show in Elko next year. And I'm gonna try to put out the Elko performances. My recording didn't go as planned. I didn't have the right cable to run from the soundboard into my computer, so I had to use my internal microphone, and I don't think the audio is any good. So I'm not hopeful that I hope I can put it out, but I'm not going to hold my breath that it's going to sound any good. So if if I can't get it to at least halfway sound decent, I'm probably not going to. Probably won't put it out. But anyhow, it was and so I was listening to Long Drive Home by Turnpike, and it was kind of, if I remember right, that was the song that they ended their Red Rock show with, and yeah, it's, I guess that's the, I'm looking at them on Spotify here, and it's got, that's kind of the backdrop, but it's it's like got a good little refrain, you know. We got a long drive home, and it's good sing along during the chorus, but it's got some really deep lyrics, and it's kind of a lot, you know, heartbreak song, and but there's a line in there. It's it's like lovers, they walk by, but they ain't like you and I. And the line I really like, it's just they all want to be Hank Williams, but they don't want to have to die. And it seems like we have got as a country to where we talk a good game, and we all want to be the tough guy until you get punched in the nose, and then everybody gets to. It's just we're soft as a country, just fucking soft, and you know we bitch at each other about the stupidest things. And what I like about about ranchers and cowboys and kind of anybody in a hard profession, whether it be agriculture or mining or military, just welding, even like the union guys, you know, those factory jobs, and you know, where it's sometimes maybe it's not grueling labor, but it's just like monotonous, and then there's other times where it's just a fucking hard job. You know, there's there's just days that suck, and more often, you know, like you're just gonna have to work hard all day, and there's that affects people different ways, I guess. Some people it kind of puts them on edge. I always talk about how horse trainers or particularly like guys that ride a lot of colts are always on edge, because you're always riding something that could bust into at any time, and you can't quite, you know, you can't quite let your guard down ever. and then there's other guys that kind of like myself. I don't get bothered by a whole lot of small shit, because man, I haven't had a bad life by any means. I had a somewhat rough growing up, different, but it made me look at life through from a completely different perspective than most people, I guess. And I find it pretty hard to get bothered by small shit. and then I go back, you know, it's like they don't want to be Hank Williams, because Hank Williams was this, you know, he was the genius for country music and just kind of music in general. He was an incredible songwriter, had just kind of a brand new sound, and people loved him. He was good at playing, but he had just a horrible pill and alcohol problem, and he lived hard, he lived fast, and he died young, kind of like all you know, like there's been so many rock stars and musicians and just entertainers, artists of any kind, that just they reach the top of their game really young, and then they either commit suicide or they overdose or whatever, and you know, die young. And and so like Hank Williams is kind of like the cowboy. You know, it's a romanticized figure, but when you live that hard and fast, a lot of times you die pretty young, and and so everybody wants to live hard and fast, but they don't want to die. They don't want to die young. It's such a good line, because it you know, you just depending on what kind of mood you're in, or what the circumstances around you, that line could mean different things. And one of the things, the interaction I had on social media, which is dumb, like I said, it's I try not to get worked up over little things, and I didn't get real worked up over this, but I probably spent more time on the response than I should have, but I felt like I did need to explain myself. And so if you follow me on any of it, I put up a reel on Instagram, and I had a what was a dead Holstein heifer in the bucket of a tractor, and uh, I had to hold, I had to pick the bucket up so I could get out of the pen and clear the fence. And so the bucket was way up there, and I did the whole Lion King, and I thought it was funny, morbid humor, but we've had a rough winter, and feedlots. It's kind of a shitty place when you get some moisture and cold weather, and in the a lot of moisture, and then you get a lot of cold weather shortly after it. Ugh. It warms up enough in the afternoon to make it just really muddy, sloppy, but not enough to dry anything out. And we've had some nice days, and we even had a little bit of a wind, some wind here lately. So it's starting to dry out. But man, it's been a shitty couple months. It was like I'm glad to see the moisture, but man, I am so fucking tired of the mud. It's not even funny. So when the weather turns bad like that, you find out just how many kind of shitter cattle you have, because those storms they'll wipe them out. And if they were looking a little tough beforehand, they're either looking real tough by the time it's done, or they don't make it through. And it's a good way to cull the herd. Pretty unbiased culling of the herd. It just they can't make this storm. They weren't going to make it very long anyway. So, but we've had a lot of deads. Compared to a normal month, and then there's times where you can't get to them in time. Whether you got the loaders tied up, unloading hay or something. And then by the time you get equipment freed up, it's too muddy to get in the pens, or you get some, like we've had 3 times we've had to pull out a loader this winter, and it's just been it's one of those winters where you earn your paycheck, and so I that humor's the first thing I go to when I to try to distract myself from the real world. Is I try to make a joke about something. And that's where it was a stupid little Lion King reference, and I thought it was funny. And the way this heifer died, she died laying on her brisket, so it looked, you probably had a question whether she was sick or not, but you couldn't really tell if she was dead. But I mean, I did pick her way up, so I mean, that's a pretty good dead giveaway. No pun intended, but it did pretty well. People liked it, and I got one bad reaction from it. And this lady messaged me, and she said, "This is not how we want people to see agriculture, and I should take this down, please, immediately." And I thought that pretty a brazen deal. And I said, "No, I'm not going to." I said, "I'm part of the public, and this is my bird's eye view of agriculture right now, and it's real. And I think there's certain aspects of what we do that, as ugly as they are and may seem, and as shocking as they may seem to the general public, I think they need to know, because as a country, we've got soft, and part of that softness is having a complete disconnect from where your food comes from. And it's not just city people, just everybody in general kind of has a disconnect of how food gets to your plate. Unless you were raising your own stuff. Even the guys, that raise cattle, like when you ask them how the other stuff gets there, and like, man, I don't know. shit about rice farming or stuff like that. It's it's a big complicated world that we live in, and I think people can learn a little bit from seeing like, oh, well, that's when I tell people we've had kind of a rough winter, like, man, it shows in your death count. Like, it's the feedlot's not a ideal situation for any beef cow. Like that, it's uh it's very beneficial for us humans, but as for the cattle, we do our best for them. We try to make sure they're healthy and comfortable and got good feed and water. But let's face it, it's a dirt pen, and they don't got far to go, and it's it's not a natural situation for them. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we gotta be ethical about it and make sure that uh, we're, we're we're maintaining the animal husbandry and humane conditions and all that. I think that is something important to do. But also, I think it's good to highlight that when Mother Nature decides to, get on the rag, there ain't much you can do but try to just weather the storm. Like, you ain't gonna stop it, and when you have a abnormal amount of weather, whether it be wind or snow, rain, ice, whatever it is, if you have an abnormal amount, like we have this year, like it's not unusual for us to get snow in December, no January, but the amount that we got in the short amount of time is pretty abnormal. It's like a once in a 10 year storm, and that shit happens, and you can prepare for it all you want, but when it hits, the better prepared you are, the better off you do. But then there's a limitation to what you can do as a human to mitigate the effects of a storm. Um, and then you're at the will of God, Mother Nature, the earth, the universe, however you want to classify that. But you're at the will of something that's a lot bigger and powerful than you are, like unfathomably more powerful than you are. So when that happens, you pick up the pieces after it's done. You can ask Jesse Stetson about picking up the pieces. I mean, as rough of a winter as we've had, and it's more just been a grind. But you look at those folks up in Montana this past summer, and Stetson ranches. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage, and that all happened in almost an instant. And they're still picking up the pieces from it, and I think that's the part of the story of agriculture that really needs to be highlighted as well, and just like not for to be a pity party, but to put it in context for people, like, hey, we're doing our best out here, but we're dependent on the earth much more than a lot of people are, directly dependent on the whims of Mother Nature. And so it's hard to take this climate change stuff seriously when they're talking about, like a 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature over, you know, 12 years, 100 years. Who knows? I wish I could say I've studied up on all the research, and I haven't. It's hard to get real concerned about that when we have so many pressing issues like directly in front of us. Like the the water issue is something that could be like a generational catastrophe, and it's something that we're that on if we want to talk climate change, like that's something we need to address muy pronto. uh, it's coming to a head real quick, and if we don't figure something out, um, it's yeah, it could be you could talk about like a major depopulation of the Midwest and the West in general, and water's gonna be, uh, it's already a scarce resource, but man, it's like I said, it's fixing to come to a head. It seems like, and so when we're talking like carbon emissions and whatnot, I'm not convinced that we have. I don't know what our effect on the climate is, but I do know is without all these fossil fuels that we burn every day, um, and use the byproducts of every day that have become so ingrained and how we run everything, like, it's it seems like we probably ought to work on something that's a little more renewable than oil, but in the meantime, like, we still got to live, and without taking us back to the Stone Age, we're probably going to need to burn some oil. And how, yeah, it's one of those things that's just like, yeah, I'm sure that is a problem, but let's in the meantime, let's try to make ourselves in the best, build ourselves up to the best condition, be as prepared as we can be should disaster strike, and that's rather than trying to stop climate change or whatever. How about we just make sure we're prepared when the climate does shift, because it always does. I mean, it has for forever since this whole ball of water and dirt started spinning, whether it was a Big Bang or God or however you want to believe. But ever since then, the climate's been changing, and I don't know. It seems like we got a lot more, like I said, pressing issues, um, you know, that are, like little more urgency. Like not going to war, not running us out of water, um, not legislating us out of the way we live, and and how we make a living, and also how we feed the country and the rest of the world. A good chunk of the world, anyways. It's yeah. Let's worry about that. So, like, that's one thing. Regardless of whether climate change is real or not, we need some food, and animal protein seems to be a pretty good thing to a good diet, regardless of what they try to tell you with these phony studies and whatnot that have been debunked over and over. Um, yeah, animal protein, I mean, meat is a pretty good way to get protein and minerals and essential, um, whatever it is, all the good nutritional stuff. Uh, meat's a good source of that, and so let's try to keep this whole thing moving along. Let's try to solve some problems as we get to them, but in the meanwhile, let's continue to try to raise a high quality product. In my case, the beef cow. Let's try to put a good finished steer to the packer. Like, that's my job. We can fight about the prices along the way. I think that needs to be addressed as well. But um, in the meanwhile, we still got to feed people. We still got to do that, and let's try to do that. But also, if we want to get our story out there and have it properly told, we've got to show some of the making of the sausage, if you will, and and I think that's where uh, people in agriculture have gotten themselves in a bind over the last 50 years, is not being as transparent as they could be, and I'm understandably so for a lot. Like, these animal rights people are fucking nuts, and those people, I don't know if you'll ever try to convince them. Um, and so I don't think it's even worth the fight trying to convince those super radical animal rights lefty nut jobs. Like, you're wasting your time. But what you can do is point out how crazy they are, and and honestly, it doesn't take much convincing to get people to eat beef anyways. Like, something like 95% of the country already does. So, I mean, we could push for the other 5% real hard, or you can just keep letting them know that, like, hey, we're out here doing a good job, and we're continuing to put good beef in the in the store cases on your plate, and like I think that's the best thing we can do, and tell a real story. Yeah, like we do this job because you guys don't want to. Like you guys could come out here and do this. Maybe you couldn't do it as well, but like those folks in the city that are that are real quick to to condemn and criticize, like they could come out here and do this, but they don't. And more often than not, those same people that'll criticize, they still like a hamburger, they still like a steak, and it goes back to that line. They want to be Hank Williams, but they want to have to die. They want to bitch and talk about humane animal practices and whatnot, but they very rarely do they ever want to figure out what that means, what how that's actually their demands, how that is put into practice, how that actually works in the real world. They don't really want to go through that because it's just like we've got our opinions, man, and and I think when you show an actual story and you tell it compellingly, and sometimes it's maybe my joke wasn't very compelling, but it was more kind of a wink and a nod to everybody else out doing this job, because I know it's been kind of a tough winter everywhere, and I think everybody could use a little laugh. But anyhow, I think when you look at like people, when you ask them about Yellowstone, some people really like it, and some people really hate it, and it always goes back, well, they're not telling the story right, but not a damn one of them goes out there to tell their own story, outside like the romanticized version, that maybe not Hollywood romanticized version, but the ones that we romanticize ourselves as well, and the public's not getting the full picture, and so there's, I mean, if you're not completely transparent with the public, it's not hard to see why there's some distrust there, and yeah, so you kind of have to, you got to walk the walk as well. You can't just talk a good game. Like when it push comes to shove, you gotta you gotta put some effort in on your own, and not just talk, not just chirp, and that's kind of what. And she we went back and forth a little bit, but I ended. I said no. Respectfully, I'm not going to. Because I thought it was funny, and I think I want to try to tell a good story about agriculture, and but also with the good comes the bad, and I think it's well worth your time explaining the bad of that can happen in agriculture, and put our way of life in better context for people. And I don't know. So maybe I'm speaking out of tune, but I think it's important. It's the same way, like we can appreciate Yellowstone for being just a pretty good show, man. It's I haven't seen the last couple episodes or a couple seasons, but it's a good show. It was a good watch. And did they get everything right? No, but it's also Hollywood, and but they did a decent job. Sure, they're not. We don't take people to the train station on a regular basis, but it's not a documentary either. It's a drama. It's yeah, it's a scripted drama. So, I think I can give them a tip of the cap for at the very least, it made cowboys cool again. Like everybody wants to have a Yellowstone hat and buckle and whatever. Yeah, do they look ridiculous? Of course they do. You can pick them out, but I don't know. At least they're they're paying somewhat of attention to us. Like you've heard more you've heard more talk about Packer consolidation and consolidation and stuff in the packing industry on a national scale than you have in probably ever in my lifetime. So it does bring people's eyeballs to what we do out here for good or bad, and but more eyeballs is good. The more people that sees what we do out here and kind of gets a better understanding for it, the more people that we're going to sway to our side, and we don't have to try too awful hard. I don't think it's a noble profession, and people respond to that. Reasonable people, and I think most people, by and large, are fairly reasonable. So I mean, I could be wrong about that. It seems like the world tries to prove me wrong on that all the time, but I no, I think the more that we can do to just I guess maybe it's to educate stuff, but I like tell a good story and make sure it's a real story. That's kind of my thoughts on that. I along the same lines, I saw during the Super Bowl some Christian organization what is that like He Gets Us or something like that, and as there was two commercials and it was all about Jesus, and one was about how God didn't want us to act like adults. He wanted us to act like kids and have joy and whatnot. And it was like hashtag be childlike. It was cute. It was good, feel good commercial. And then the other one was pretty intense, and it showed just a bunch of clips, whether it be from a BLM riot or from the January 6th deal, and just people at each other's throats. And it said something to the effect is like, Jesus loves the people you hate, and and then it ended with like hashtag love your enemies. And I thought it was a really really well done commercial, and immediately this morning when I was looking through Twitter, like that was one of the hot topics, and the lefties were outraged because the organization that paid for the commercial took money from the CEO or the owner of Hobby Lobby, who donates a bunch of money to the Alliance Defending Freedom, who takes up cases like the Christian baker in Colorado that keeps getting sued for not baking a cake for a gay couple and shit like that. They take up those causes. And so that essentially to the lefties made an ad about Jesus and Jesus's words, essentially akin to fascism. And then there were people on the right who thought that they didn't portray Jesus in the right way, and I thought it was just really telling how it pissed off people from the complete opposite ends of the cultural and political spectrum for different reasons, and they were highlighting, which if you consider yourself a Christian, and I do myself, I guess the most I guess it'd be the hardest aspect of being a follower of Christ is to learn to love your enemies. And I thought it was just really telling that commercial really struck a nerve with people from opposite ends of the spectrum, and it was the message was love your enemies, and I thought that was kind of telling for a lot of people, and it's kind of surprised me some of the people on the right wing that were not happy about it, and it was just it was interesting, and I don't know, it just it's funny how still that everything is still very political, and and in some ways, I think that's good. People are kind of watching what their elected officials are up to a little closer nowadays, which is a good thing. But also, boy, they're just the unbridled opinions of people who really don't know a whole lot is boy, it gets to be a little much. But what do I know? I'm not all I try to stay informed, but there's a lot that I don't know myself, and I'm guilty as ever of just getting sucked into the whole political thing, and just like it's good to just step back from it for a little bit, put on some music, read a good book, watch the fucking Super Bowl, or even get on Facebook and chirp about, oh, I'm too cowboy to watch the Super Bowl, damn it. And you know what? I enjoy those posts too, because I more than anything, I enjoyed going across social media and seeing people talking shit on the refs, talking shit on the Chiefs, talking shit on the Eagles. I liked that. Like when people are talking shit about sports, that feels normal again. And so it was kind of, that part was refreshing, but also like, of course, you get sucked into whatever the big outrage fest is of the day, and whether it be shooting down UFOs allegedly, or the one they're not paying attention to, which they should. We probably blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, and which is not great. But yeah, you can get sucked down that all day long, but at some point you got to turn it off. And my suggestion is you put on a little Turnpike, and you have a drink, you light up a doob, whatever you do, throw a chaw in, and just take in some good music, have a laugh, enjoy, a bunch of super athletes running into each other at full speed, and or watch a good movie, whatever it is. Take your mind off all the bullshit for a little bit. It'll be there tomorrow, I promise you. But yeah, enjoy some simple things in life, and it'll do you wonders. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I've had a few new people sign up on Patreon. I appreciate y'all doing that. I really appreciate the support. It's the best way you can support the show is go to patreon.com/burninDaylight. Sign up there. Go to bubsnaturals.com if you want to buy some good really good quality supplements from a company that donates 10% of their profits to charity. It's a good company, and they pay me a little bit if you buy from me. Promo code Burnin Daylight. They got collagen, MCT oil, and apple cider vinegar gummies, which are all natural, all organic, all the hippie bullshit that's good for you. They've got it, and I take the collagen in my coffee every day, and it sure has helped my joints. So anyway, bubsnaturals.com, promo code Burnin Daylight gets you 20% off, and yeah, patreon.com/Burnin Daylight if you'd like to support the show, and for those that do, I sure appreciate you. So anyways, hope you guys have a wonderful week, and move your ass. We're burning daylight.
The squeak of a hardwood floor as you start out your day. And I've loved you, darling, from across your kitchen table. And I've loved you, darling, from 1,000 miles away. Oh, and I'm still standing here, and I've got reasonable fears. All the houses I've built came crashing down around my ears, and won't you find another business? Loving songs ain't in your cards, won't you find another game? Well, I'm still here searching for the things that I've been missing. Living with these low-down fools and all our stupid shame. Oh, and I still dwell and set on all the things that I regret. You still can't forgive the times that I wish I could forget. We got a long drive home. We got a long drive home. We got a long drive home. And I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if you don't. We're people anymore, they got no staying power. A love you come by easy, it'll leave you just the same. You want something bad, you gotta bleed a little for it. You gotta look it in the eye, you gotta call it out by name. Oh, and lovers, they march by, but they ain't like you and I. They don't wanna be Hank Williams, they don't wanna have to die. And we got a long drive home. We got a long drive home. We got a long drive home. And I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if you don't.